Welcome back to Where on Earth, the channel that finds the geography behind the story's history never finished telling. October 1347, the port of Messina, Sicily. 12 ships arrived from the Black Sea carrying something that would define the next 5 years of European history. Most of the sailors were dead. Those still alive were gravely ill. The Black Death had arrived in Europe. Over the next 5 years, the plague spread across the continent, killing tens of millions of people and reshaping society forever. But the true geography story begins far from Sicily. It begins on the steppes of Central Asia, likely near modern Kyrgyzstan and western China, where plague bacteria circulated in rodent populations for centuries. Local outbreaks happened, then faded. What changed was geography. To understand how the Black Death reached Europe, you need to understand the Mongol Empire and the Silk Road. The Silk Road was not one road, but a network of trade routes linking East Asia to the Mediterranean across deserts, mountains, grasslands, and river valleys. For centuries, these routes were fragmented under many rulers. Then the Mongol Empire unified much of Eurasia. Under Mongol rule, caravan routes became safer, travel became faster, and trade expanded dramatically. Postal relay stations and protected merchant routes created something like the first transcontinental supply chain. The same routes that moved silk, spices, paper, and ideas also moved rats, fleas, and infected people. The plague traveled west through Central Asia toward the Volga, then to the Crimea. In 1346, it reached the trading port of Kaffa on the Black Sea, a major link between overland and maritime commerce. Merchants fleeing the outbreak boarded ships and sailed west across the Mediterranean, from Kaffa to Constantinople, to Sicily, to Genoa, to Marseille, to Barcelona. Every port connected to trade became vulnerable. From coastal cities, the disease moved inland along roads, rivers, and commercial routes. The plague followed the geography of human connection. Major ports suffered first. Inland market towns followed. Remote regions often suffered later, and some less severely. The same principle remains true in the modern world. Disease follows movement. Then came the geography of survival. Some places reduced losses through isolation. Milan restricted movement and tightly controlled infected households. Its mortality was lower than many comparable cities. Poland, less integrated into Mediterranean trade networks and more insulated geographically, was hit later and less severely in the first wave. Remote alpine communities often escaped the worst early outbreaks. Isolation could protect, connectivity could destroy. But the most profound story is the world the plague left behind. Medieval Europe had been built on feudal labor systems where peasants were tied to land and had little bargaining power. Then 1/3 of the population died. Suddenly land was abundant and workers were scarce. Lords competed for labor. Survivors could demand wages, move elsewhere, or negotiate better conditions. Across parts of Western Europe, serfdom weakened. Wages rose. Social mobility increased. Economic geography had shifted. The plague also changed institutions. Religious authority was shaken as communities saw suffering on a scale traditional explanations could not easily answer. In many cities, wealth became concentrated in fewer surviving hands. Commercial classes expanded. Banking and finance grew. Intellectual life changed. In Italy, some of the same urban centers devastated by plague later became centers of Renaissance creativity, commerce, and experimentation. The Black Death also altered global trade geography. Overland routes that once linked Europe and Asia became riskier and less attractive. Maritime alternatives gained importance. In the following century, European states invested more heavily in oceanic navigation and sea routes to Asia. The age of exploration emerged from many causes, but plague-era disruption was one of them. Could something like this happen again? Modern medicine, surveillance, and antibiotics make plague itself far less threatening. But the geography of connection is stronger than ever. Medieval caravans crossed continents in months. Modern aircraft cross them in hours. A local outbreak today can become a global concern with extraordinary speed. The Black Death was a geography story from beginning to end. The geography of the steppe where it evolved, the trade routes that carried it, the ports that received it, the isolation that protected some communities and the connectivity that exposed others, and the transformed world it helped create. A world whose economies, institutions, and power structures still bear the marks of that catastrophe. Subscribe to Where on Earth for weekly geography that connects the past to the present. Because the world looks very different when you follow the geography of a flea.